Have you ever noticed your dog cowering or running away at the sound of a loud noise? Maybe your dog has a problem with thunder, or smoke alarms, construction equipment, or city sounds. If these sounds cause your dog to tilt their head, that might mean he's curious. But if he whines, cowers, or barks like crazy, you might have a dog that's sensitive to sound. Now, this might be due to a scary incident he experienced, or it could be part of who he is. Regardless, let's go over some things that you need to know about sound sensitivity training for puppies. Michelle here with How to Train a Dream Dog. Okay, first, a little anatomy lesson. Maybe you remember this from grade school. When you hear a noise, it funnels into the ear by the pinna. Then the sound waves navigate through the ear canal and vibrate through the eardrum. The vibrations are amplified by tiny bones in the inner ear. And in dogs, these bones are shaped to amplify sounds better than humans, giving dogs greater sound sensitivity. So even if something doesn't seem loud or annoying to you, it still could be frightening to your dog. Now, we can't determine what is scary to our dogs. We can only help them change their association to it. Now, we do that by desensitization to a variety of noises when puppies are young, usually before 16 weeks of age. Or we could do it using a counter-conditioning approach if they've already developed an aversion to a particular noise. Now, I'm going to show you how to do that in just a minute, so be sure to watch for that part. Let's talk about some signals that your dog is scared. Dogs communicate through body language, so we have to understand what those signals are. Here are a few to watch for. Number 1, your dog is shaking, clinging, not leaving your side. Number 2, your dog appears to panic or is pacing, maybe accompanied by panting. Number 3, he runs and tries to hide. Number 4, he has potty accidents inside. And number 5, you might see some destructive chewing. Now, you know your dog best, so if you notice something out of the ordinary and you have a stressed dog or a fearful dog on your hands, you have to put on your puppy detective hat to figure out what might be going on. Now, it's very possible that you've tuned out the noise entirely because it's just part of your ordinary life. But in order to help your dog, you've got to figure out what's triggering the fear. Now, my teammate Allison was taking Lincoln for a walk one afternoon. Now, in the back of her mind, she noticed that a smoke alarm was going off in a house behind hers. She didn't think much of it. Lincoln seemed eager for the walk, and they headed off in the direction away from the alarm. When it came time to head home, Lincoln put on his brakes. It actually took some puppy detective thinking, but Allison finally figured out that Lincoln was having a hard time with that smoke alarm noise, and he did not want to walk any closer to it. Now, this was a bit of a challenge because it was a noise that Allison could not control, and at some point, they needed to go home. With some patience and letting Lincoln process the noise at his own pace, they eventually got home. Now, when they got home though, Allison turned on some music for anxious dogs, closed all the windows and doors, and put on a white noise machine right outside the door that led to the backyard. She gave Lincoln something to lick and spent more time with him in an inside room. Now, I'm going to give you some more tips on some really important calming tools in just a minute, so hang tight. But that licking time was critical for Lincoln to decompress after that stressful situation. And within a few hours, he was relaxed and eventually the smoke alarm turned off. Lincoln continues to not be a fan of smoke alarms, but Allison has done some work to counter-condition and help change his mind, or at least neutralize it a bit. It's a work in progress, but it's worth it. All right, let's talk about some things you can do if you notice your dog is scared or uncertain about particular noises. First, keep in mind that your dog will likely experience a fight, flight, or freeze response. Now, these are common responses to scary things. Now, he might try to run, he might become barky and agitated, or he might simply freeze. When Lincoln was coming home from the walk toward the smoke alarm, he froze. He also lifted up his paw, which is a sign of stress or more concentrated thinking about something. And when you see one of these responses, I don't want you to correct or change your dog's response. Lincoln needed to freeze while he thought about what that scary sound was. Allison had to be super patient while she waited for him to be more comfortable heading home. Now, if your dog wants to flee, give him a spot to go, but keep him on a leash if you're outside. Many dogs will choose their crates if they're inside, which is a great reason to keep the crate available and keep up with that crate training. It gives dogs a safe space to go when they're scared. Now, if your dog is barking or very agitated when hearing noises, this is definitely where counter conditioning can help you. Counter conditioning should be used in all cases where your dog has formed a negative opinion about something. All right, here's how counter conditioning works. Through counter conditioning, you are changing your dog's association with the sound. Now that means that you need to recreate the sound in some way and be able to control the level. Sound effects from YouTube were great for that reason. Now you can control the volume and when it should start and stop. You are going to need to play it at a volume that your dog can tolerate without any negative emotions. And while he hears the sound, you are delivering treats. And when the sound stops, the treats stop. When the sound starts, the treats start. Keep in mind that a critical piece of this is playing it at a volume that your dog finds perfectly acceptable and likely is pretty low to start. Over time, the sound levels can increase, so it more closely mimics the sound he's hearing in real life. This is a small part of how we manage reactive dog training too. Counter conditioning is used in a lot of canine training. Now, before I tell you another story about helping a dog with sound sensitivity, I just want to check and see if you're enjoying this lesson. And if you are, give me a like, a share, subscribe to the channel, or use a super thanks. We work hard to put these videos together for you each week, and we'd love to know that you're enjoying them. All right, this is another trainer on my team, KD. She has this adorable dog named Ziggy, and Ziggy is not a fan of thunder. But they live in Oklahoma, so they definitely get those big storms. KD's been working to change Ziggy's stress response about thunder, using the counter conditioning technique. She's playing the storm sounds or thunder sounds while offering him treats. She's watching his body language carefully to make sure he's comfortable with the sound volume and he's not experiencing any stress. Now, this process will not work if your dog is experiencing stress while hearing the sound in the training session. Notice how the sound stops and the treats stop. Now, these sessions are short at about 30 seconds to 1 minute. But she does them several times a day. YouTube can't perfectly mimic the sounds outside, and Ziggy definitely smells when storms are coming with that amazing canine nose. But this is going to really help reduce his fear when the thunder is loud and close. All right, let's talk about some other things you can do to help your dog in these situations. Now, if you weren't expecting the noise and you didn't know it was a bother to your dog, these tips are going to help you. Have you heard of a thunder shirt? This shirt is like a compression shirt that applies a gentle but constant pressure to your dog's body. It's a lot like swaddling a baby, and researchers say that this type of pressure can release a calming hormone. Now, Allison uses one for Lincoln anytime they hear loud noises like thunder, fireworks, or even an alarm. Now, it's not a magic pill. It won't make the fear go away, but it can bring down the stress level and help comfort your dog. Also, have you heard of a happy hoodie? Now, some people feel that it's a perfect accessory for a sound-sensitive dog. These are used a lot at grooming salons. The happy hoodie is actually designed to prevent the dog from feeling the uncomfortable sensation of air rushing past his ear. The dog can still hear through it, although it dampens the volume. Now, I don't really recommend it as a solution for scary noises because it doesn't really address the underlying fear. And the other thing is that both the thunder shirt and the happy hoodie have to be desensitized. So don't expect to just pull it out of the package at the first sound of thunder and pop it on. Remember that your dog smells better than you do, so just like Ziggy and his fear, your dog might smell the scary thing before you even know it's happening. And you could get creative and do counter conditioning to smell too, but that's a little bit harder. Okay, what else can we do to help our dogs in the moment? Well, you've heard me talk about Allison using calming music and a white noise machine. There are some other great tools you can use to help reduce anxiety in your dog. Now, I have an entire video on it, and that's where I want you to go next. Having some of these tools ready for any scenario that might come up is really going to help. So watch the video and get the tools ready. And without these tools, you might end up with a much bigger problem and a very scared dog. So be prepared ahead of time. This is called pre-training. Training ahead of the problem that might occur or when you know your pup is going to have a tough time. Besides, working outside of the time that you need to use something like a tool or when your dog isn't stressed is best. Your dog can't learn very well when the scary sound is already happening, and limited to no learning takes place at that time. So hopefully, with all this great info, your puppy will be ready for any scary thing that comes up. Now, I know the sound phobia might make you feel like you have a stubborn dog, and you might be a frustrated dog owner, but with a little training and patience, you will get there. Okay, one more tip. If you're watching this with a young puppy who doesn't really show any fear, I hope you're doing puppy socialization and exposure training to prevent doggy noise phobias. Now, you can prevent sound sensitivity from happening in some dogs by doing that. All right, if you have a sound sensitive dog, tell me what he or she is afraid of in the comments. And if you need some help figuring out a counter conditioning plan, just ask, we'll give you some tips. This is Michele Lennon and the How to Train a Dream Dog team. We are your puppy experts and favorite certified trainers. Until next time.